What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex. In this video, I want to talk about a morality system in Hogwarts Legacy 2, and I'm going to try to tie this directly to that cut content from the first game. So if you guys haven't seen this, there's a video. I'll put a link for it in the description, and it goes through a ton of things that seemingly were cut from the base game. Goes through files. I mean, it's all very legitimate stuff. And one of the biggest sections of that video was talking about morality and how things would have worked. People basically calling higher ups on you, that you weren't going to just be able to go out and do AK to people, people's like versus dislike of each other, people's like versus dislike of you. So there were all these things that were extremely cool that were not, in obviously the base game. Who knows when it was cut just in general from the game, but I want to talk a little bit about that and then talk about if they're going to implement it or should they implement it in a Hogwarts Legacy 2. So let's start right there, and I do think the answer is yes, and I'll even call myself out here, right? So you had gaming journalists, and obviously they were not very nice to the game. The one thing that I probably regret saying or doing a video kind of countering is there was a big movement talking about how, would a morality system not being in the game, would it make the game feel weird? And I believe even IGN pointed out. Now, I will say, the way they pointed it out, I'm not a fan of. I was not a fan of the way that she put it and the way that it was, again, kind of attacking people, much like, again, all these game journalists do. But I was wrong in the sense of saying, does it need one? No, it absolutely doesn't need one. I actually think that would have helped the game. I do think that was a weakness of the game. Not a gigantic one, not one that ruined the game, but just, and we've said this kind of here and there about it, these little things I think would have just kind of amplified the overall game. I think having something like that would take this game to a new level. So, we've talked about like Avalanche and this being their first attempt, and I think doing an incredible job for their first attempt. But, if you want to take that huge leap, and I'm not saying like this is going to be the Red Dead 2 of the world, right? The Hogwarts Legacy 2 is going to be now suddenly CD Projekt Red at their peak or Rockstar or things like that. I mean, maybe they'll get close, and that should kind of be like the goal. You should try to reach for the absolute best. And I think having a morality system is one of the very first steps to do it. Now, here's the thing. Doesn't matter if Hogwarts Legacy 2 is in the same time period. Doesn't matter if it's an anthology series. Doesn't matter, what they do with the second game that would change it from the first. I do think they need to have that system in because you do feel it. You do feel it in the game. No matter if you're choosing like somewhat mean options or somewhat nice options, you are looked at as, this person that's going to kind of right the wrongs and going to fix things and is going to stand up to Ranrock and all that. And when you're going out there and you're just obliterating people and you come back and the worst you get is like Professor Weasley saying, oh, well, I've heard you've gone out. I've heard you like gone out on the town. And it's like, well, actually I've killed maybe like 500 people, like literally obliterated them. It doesn't work all that great. Now, again, is it game breaking? Honestly, I think it's actually more funny than anything else. However, fixing that I do think would help the second game. And so what would I do? Well, I would honestly try to implement the things that they cut, like almost word for word or thing for thing that they cut from the original game. So here's some examples. One thing is, if you do certain illegal spells or whatever out in the world, you get somebody called on you. Now, how you handle that, that's probably up for debate, right? But if you're out and you're at the edge of, say, a little town and you do AK and somebody sees that, they can run and they can alert the authorities that would then come to you. Maybe that just like respawns you back at the school. Maybe you pay a fine, right? So now you can introduce currency and currency is already important in the base game. So maybe you continue to make it important and you lose a good chunk of change if you get caught. Lock picking was something, and this has to do with morality because it seems like lock picking was not going to, you were not going to have to do Alohomora to every single lock, around the entire world. So it was going to be considered more of like a breaking and entering thing, which to be honest with you, I would really like that considering, again, from a more realism standpoint, you can be walking around Hogwarts, you can be in Hogsmeade and there will be those buildings, right, that are locked. You could do it right in front of somebody. You could unlock it right in front of somebody. Nobody cares if you enter that building or you enter that door. So I think doing something like that would greatly help, just literally take away that spell. I know it's iconic. I know it's something, hearing it and hearing the characters say it is something special, but well, number one, doing it like 500 times gets annoying, and number two, just simply have us press the button, do the spell. I guess actually you could still have the spell, right? You just wouldn't have the mini game. And then if you do that, if you go into a room when somebody's watching, or even if you use that spell, because it's like a lock picking, right? You're unlocking something kind of right in front of somebody. If somebody sees you, you would get in trouble for that. You could then tie it to the other characters. So if you have characters that are out and about, or professors that are out and about, and this is where it kind of again came up with some problems. You could be with students, you could be with professors, you could be doing unforgivable curses with Professor Fig, and he couldn't care less, even though he is a more like kind of noble individual, right? At the end of the game, when you're going around, yes, they're trying to attack you, but if you do Avada Kedavra to them and kill them directly in front of him, you don't get punished in any way. So whether it's very extended kind of dialogue where they're like disgusted with you, but even more so, again, like if you're going to do it with a professor at the school, you should be punished in some way, or the loyalty or friendship with that professor should drop. If you're doing it with a student, now it's different depending on the student, right? So if you kind of retroactively did this to Hogwarts Legacy, if you do unforgivable stuff with Sebastian, maybe he almost praises you in dialogue, and then maybe your friendship or alliance or whatever goes up. But if you do it with somebody like Poppy or Natsai, right, then maybe it completely plummets. So I think something just as simple as that, just kind of holding the character more accountable through, stealth and lockpicking. You got to be able to do that quieter and away from people, otherwise you're going to get in trouble. Or if you do unforgivable things, you're also going to get in trouble. I think that is the first step to, and really maybe all you need to do as the next step for this morality system. So let me know what you guys think, what you would want to implement for it for the next game. Again, no matter when it is, I think these kind of things would still work. Make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel, bell icon turned on, and I hope to see you all on the next one.